Vincent Coyle was born in Dublin on the 20th of July 1900, son of James Coyle, who was chairman of the committee that ran the Peamount Sanatorium in West Dublin. Vincent grew up in Clontarf and, as befits the son of a solidly middle-class family on the north side, he attended Belvedere College before finishing his secondary school education at Clontarf, where, according to a college obituary, quote, he was an all-round athlete and shone at rugby, swimming and lawn tennis. In 1917, he went to UCD, where he earned a master's degree in science and played for the old Belvedere Rugby Club. In 1922, shortly after he completed his master's degree, he found work as a chemist for Deutsches Kali-syndikat, or Potash Syndicate, at its offices at 2831 Dessauerstrasse in Berlin, a building which still stands today close to the Anhalter railway station, which does not. In August 1928, Coyle married Evelyn O'Riordan at the Church of the Immaculate Lady of Refuge in Rathmines. The couple had two children, Grania, born in June 1929, and Francis, born 3 years later, both in Berlin. The Kali-syndikat combined the efforts of a number of fertiliser producers in Germany. The country had lost its world monopoly over potash used in fertilisers at the outbreak of World War I, but prospects improved throughout the 1920s through substantial consolidation of the sector, in which the Kali-syndikat played a central role. The syndicate was largely restructured by the Nazis when they came to power in 1933, and potash production grew from 2,000 tonnes in the depth of the Depression in 1930 to 120,000 tonnes in 1939. Vincent Coyle's career progressed in tandem, and by the outbreak of World War II, he had risen to the position of managing director and became, according to Irish Legation officials in the German capital, the, quote, leading Irishman in Berlin. Coyle took the precaution of sending his wife and children out of the city in the early months of the war, obtaining for them a permit to live in Rastenburg in East Prussia as early as May 1940. He himself decided to stay at his post, and became the only known Irish victim of Allied air raids on Berlin during World War II. Coyle died on the night of the 23rd-24th of August 1943 after the heaviest raid against Berlin up to that date, involving over 700 British aircraft. After the all-clear alarm had sounded, Coyle, who had been staying with a friend, made his way home at 2 Kellerstrasse in the Steglitz area of the city. On his way, he came across a burning house at Devrientweg that had been struck by incendiary bombs. Selflessly, to help in the rescue operation, Mr. Coyle rushed into the house and pulled items out, according to an Irish Legation report sent to the Allianz insurance company afterwards. But then he was overcome by the smoke, and a severely burnt body was only found several days later, the report went on. Coyle had died, the legation in Berlin was keen to emphasise, quote, while rescuing a German property on behalf of Germans who were completely unknown to him. Coyle was buried in St. Matthias graveyard, not far from his home, a few days later. Fortunately, a few days earlier, Evelyn and the two children, aged 12 and 14, had left the city for Rastenburg, now Kętrzyn in Poland and the location of Hitler's war HQ, known as the Wolf's Lair. Evelyn, who had wanted to return to Ireland for some time, now pressed the legation to organise her evacuation from Germany. Returning to the family flat in Kellerstrasse, and knowing she could not take German currency out of the country with her, she sent a money order for 2,700 Reichsmarks, the equivalent of about 13,300 euros, to the Irish legation in Berlin, which was to be used to cover the cost of travel and visa arrangements to leave Germany. In December 1943, the Coyles set out on a long, arduous journey that would take them first to Paris, where they were greeted by Count O'Kelly de Gala, Ireland's special counsellor in the city, who arranged for them to stay in a convent. But a mix-up over currency arrangements meant that the Coyle family had to spend a month in Paris before they were able to travel onwards, first to Madrid and then to Lisbon, where they were able to find transport first to London and then to Ireland. Before leaving Berlin, Evelyn sold a sewing machine and a table to a Frau Kamberg for 400 Reichsmarks and tried to sell 5 volumes of the Brockhaus Encyclopedia at 30 Reichsmarks apiece to one of her husband's colleagues. What she could not take with her or sell, Evelyn Coyle simply left behind with neighbours. With archetypal German thoroughness, a neighbour called Fräulein Jerwitz drew up a list of the items left behind, which included a framed photograph of Emma de Valera, which legation officials progressively removed for safekeeping. Alas, the Irish legation premises in Drakestrasse were destroyed in a massive raid on the 22nd of November 1943, and with them a number of valuable items that Coyle's family had placed there for safety. Another chest containing personal belongings was left behind at a stud farm in Rastenburg. In July 1944, no doubt worried that the Soviets would soon overrun East Prussia, Evelyn, by now back in Dublin, asked the Department of External Affairs whether the chest could not be sent to Ireland's Berlin Legation's new base in another stud farm, this one run by Irishman Charlie Mills in Staffelde outside the city. Alas, a couple of months later, a Frau Uppenborn wrote from the state stud farm in Rastenburg that, quote, "As only the most essential goods can be sent from here at present, Mrs. Coyle's chest must remain here." The area around Rastenburg was overrun by Soviet forces in January 1945. Kali-syndikat faithfully paid monthly pension of 250 Reichsmarks per month to Coyle's widow via the Irish Legation throughout the rest of the war, despite the calamities that rained down on Berlin between 1943 and 1945. Coyle also had a life insurance policy taken out by his company on his behalf. But the insurance company, Allianz, proved far more reluctant to cough up compensation. It argued that since he had not been killed in the performance of his professional duties, but rather while volunteering in rescue work in the aftermath of the bombing raid, the company was not liable to pay out anything to a surviving family. Quote, "According to regulation, fatalities that occur through incidents of war are not covered," Allianz callously stated in a missive in April 1944. However, some arm twisting by the Irish Legation under Minister Con Cremen resulted in Allianz paying out 3,000 Reichsmarks to Vincent Coyle's widow. The Legation also convinced the state authorities to make an exception to residency rules and pay out a widow's pension to Evelyn Coyle. A lump sum was to be paid out, as well as a monthly pension, starting the 1st of January 1945. Berlin was to fall to the Soviets 4 months later. After her repatriation, Evelyn Coyle obtained a teaching position with the Vocational Education Committee in Dublin. Her son, Frank Coyle, attended his late father's alma mater, Belvedere College, and worked as an engineer with Siemens in Ireland until his retirement in 1994, while Evelyn's daughter Groine emigrated to Vancouver.